Hi everyone, I'm Asta. In this video, I want to explain about rhythm. Let's start from the definition. The word rhythm comes from the Greek meaning, measured motion. It is the pattern of stresses in poetic writing. In literature, rhythm is the pattern of stressed and unstressed beats. The rhythm of a poem can be analyzed through the number of lines in a verse, a number of syllables in the line, and also the arrangement of syllables based on whether they are long or short, and then accented or unaccented. Where there are 5 types of rhythm. The first is iamb. An iamb is comprised of one unstressed syllable followed by one stressed syllable. For example, begin, again, and alive. The second one is truki. The upside of an iamb. A truki is one stressed syllable followed by one unstressed syllable. For example, altar, bridesmaid, marriage. And then the third one is spandi. A spandi is a pattern of 2 subsequent stressed syllables. For example, how now, rainstorm, and also sunshine. The next one is dactyl. A dactyl is comprised of one stressed syllable followed by 2 unstressed syllables. For example, animal, terrible, different. And then the last is anapest. An anapest is the upside of a dactyl, in that it has 2 unstressed syllables followed by one stressed syllable. For example, souvenir, alacrite, and also debonair. Well, I want to show you some common examples of rhythm, and then please try to say it by yourself, okay? After that, let's move to the significance of rhythm in literature. Rhythm is one of the most important features of Putri. How does it work? It works to provide the poem with a pattern of beats, one that influences the way the reader hears the sounds and the speed at which they read them. And then the stressed and unstressed beats produce different results that make every poem looks different. And then they give Putri a song-like quality that makes it a pleasure to hear and to read out loud. And that all being said, not all poets choose to use rhythm in their poetry. Many contemporary poems are written in free verse. Well, I put 3 examples of rhythm in literature, and I want to try to read only one example. And then for the other example, please try to read it by yourself, okay? Okay, let's start it. So, the spear dance in days gone by, and the kings who ruled them had courage and greatness. We have heard of those princes' heroic campaigns. Beowulf, translated by Seamus Honey. Okay everybody, that's all about my presentation, and then the material will be continued by my friends. Thank you.
So I will continue the presentation. Definition of meter. Meter is a literary device that works as a structural element in poetry. Essentially, meter is the basic rhythmic structure of a line within a poem or poetic work. Meter functions as a means of imposing a specific number of syllables and emphasis when it comes to a line of poetry that adds to its musicality. It consists of the number of syllables and the pattern of emphasis on those syllables. In addition, meter governs individual units within a line of poetry called feet. A foot or of a poetic work features a specific number of syllables and pattern of emphasis. Perhaps the most famous example of poetic meter is iambic pentameter. An iamb is a metric foot that consists of one short or unstressed syllable followed by a long or stressed syllable. The structure of iambic pentameter features 5 iambs per line or 10 total syllables per line. All the even number syllables in this metric form are stressed. Shakespeare is well known for his use of this literary device, especially in his sonnets. Here is an example from Sonnet 104 that you can see on the slide. Each line features 5 iambs that follows the pattern of unstressed or stressed syllables. Difference between meter and rhythm. Many people use the meter and rhythm of the music interchangeably due to their similarities. However, as a literary devices, they are different. Rhythm is a literary device that sets the overall tempo or pace of a literary work. Rhythm can be applied to poetry, free verse, or prose. Meter is a literary device that creates a measure beat, often in a work of poetry that is established by patterns or of stressed and unstressed syllables. Meter is considered a more formal writing tool, particularly as it applies to poetry. It can enhance the rhythmic quality of poetic writing. However, its purpose is to set steady timing in poetic line with metrical feet, just as a time signature and metronome might set steady timing in a musical work. Unlike meter, rhythm is less about a steady and measured beat of syllables. Instead, the purpose of rhythm is to create natural patterns and flow of words that enhance a poetic work's tone and content. This is especially true for poets that write free verse. In this case, meter is not emphasized to give the verse poetic structure. Instead, the poets of free verse focus on natural rhythm and pacing. Common examples of metrical feet. For English poetry, metrical feet generally feature 2 or 3 syllables. They are categorized by a specific combination of stressed and unstressed syllables. The most common examples of metrical feet include trochee is a stressed syllable followed by unstressed syllable, as in custom. Iamb, unstressed syllable followed by stressed syllable, as in describe. Spondee equals stress for both syllables, as in cupcake. Dactyl, stressed syllable followed by 2 unstressed syllables, as in bicycle. Anapaes, 2 unstressed syllables followed by a stressed syllables, as in understand. The repetition of metrical feet in a line of poetry creates poetic meter, like beats in music. The length of a poetic meter is labeled with Greek suffixes. 1 foot is monometer, 2 feet is dimeter, 3 feet is trimeter, 4 feet is latetrameter, 5 feet is pentameter, 6 feet is hexameter, 7 feet is heptameter, and the last 8 feet is octameter. Therefore, the term iambic pentameter signifies that a poetic line contains 5 repetitions of iamb, or an unstressed syllable or stressed syllable pattern repeated 5 times, as illustrated in the sonnet lines above. Use of meter in sentences. The first one is "To swell the gourd and plump the hazel shells" by John Keats in "To Autumn" is the example of iamb meter. Number 2, the grizzly bear is huge and wild. He has devoured an infant child. The infant child is not aware it has been eaten by the bear. By A.E. Housman's in "Infant Innocence" is the example of trochee meter. And number 3, half a league, half a league, half a league onward by Alfred Lord Tennyson in "The Charge of the Light Brigade" is the example of dactyl meter. Number 4, "And the sheen of their spears was like stars on the sea" by Lord Byron in "The Destruction of Sennacherib." is the example of Ananta's meter. Number 5. As Yet But Knock, Breathe, Shine, and Seek to Mend by John Donne in Holy Sonnet 14 is the example of spondymeter. Number 6. When the Blood Creeps and the Nerves Break by Alfred Lord Tennyson in Memoriam is the example of perimeters. Examples of meter in well-known words and phrases. Meter is found in many well-known words and phrases. The English language lends itself to accenting or stressing particular syllables as elements and patterns of speech. Here are some examples of meter in well-known words and phrases. The first one, throw cake, stress and unstress. The first one is gently down the stream, hold your horses, happy birthday, merry Christmas, nice to meet you. And then the next is I am big, unstress, stress. I pledge allegiance to the flag, your wish is my command. It came upon a midnight clear, no pain, no gain, the buck stops here. The next one, spondylic, stress, stress. Lay low, stay gold, on point, step up, lights out. Dactylic, stress, unstress, unstress. Where do you think you're going? Easy come, easy go. Go forth and conquer. Let them eat cake. Live long and prosper. Anapestic. Unstress, unstress, stress. In the blink of an eye. Hit the nail on the head. At the drop of a hat. Cost an arm and a leg. Famous examples of meter. Meter is found many famous examples of poetic works, including poems, drama, and lyrics. Here are some famous examples of meter, like Shall I Compare Thee to a Summer's Day is the example of iambic pentameter. Once Upon a Midnight Dreary While I Ponder Weak and Weary is the example of trochaic octameter. Out Them Spot, Out I Say is the example of spondylic trimeter. The itsy bitsy spider is the example of iambic trimeter. Stop all the clocks, cut off the telephone is the example of dactylic dimeter. I wander lonely as a cloud is the example of iambic tetrameter. Forward the light brigade, charge for the guns, he said, is the example of dactylic dimeter. Fair is foul and foul is fair is the example of trochaic tetrameter. But soft, what light through yonder window's bricks is the example of iambic pentameter. 'Twas the night before Christmas and all through the house is the example of anapestic tetrameter. Writing meter. Overall, as a literary device, meter function as a means of creating structure and musicality in lines of poetry. This is effective for readers in that meter allows for specific patterns or beats of stressed and unstressed syllables in poetry while simultaneously elevating artistic language. Meter enhances the enjoyment and meaning of poetic works for readers. It's important that writers understand the distinction between qualitative and quantitative meter. Qualitative meter is a feature stressed syllables in regular intervals, such as 5 iambs in a line of poetry. This type of meter creates a consistent flow for readers. And then qualitative meter features patterns based on the weight of syllable rather than which are stressed. This allows for combination of meter that still create flow for the reader. For example, a spondy may follow a dactyl in order to facilitate meter in a line of poetry. Rather than the stress on syllables, it is their length or duration that is important. That's it about my material. And then we go to the next topic.
Okay, let me continue our presentation. The next material is sonnet. The word sonnet stems from the Italian word sonetto, which itself derived from suono, meaning a sound. This sonnet form was developed by Italian poet Giacomo da Lentini in the early 13th century. Many Italians of the time period wrote sonnets, including Michelangelo and Dante Alighieri. However, the most famous Renaissance Italian poet of sonnet was Petrarch. As such, Italian Renaissance sonnets are typically called Petrarch sonnets. The format created by Giacomo da Lentini and perfected by Petrarch was adapted by the English poets of the Elizabethan age. These poets include Elizabeth Barrett Browning, John Donne, and the master of the English sonnet, William Shakespeare. So synonyms is Shakespeare with the sonnet format that English sonnets are frequently referred to as Shakespearean sonnets. How many lines does a sonnet have? A sonnet consists of 14 lines. Shakespearean sonnets are typically governed by the following rules. The 14 lines are divided into 4 subgroups. And then the first 3 subgroups have 4 lines each, which makes them quatrains, with the second and fourth lines of each group containing rhyming words. The sonnet then it concludes with the 2 lines of group, and these 2 lines rhyme with each other. There are typically 10 syllables per line. Rhyme scheme of sonnet. Rhyme scheme is the rhyming sequence of arrangement of sound at the end of each line of poetry. It is typically represented by using letters to demonstrate which line rhyme with which. For example, roses are red, violets are blue, sugar is sweet, and so are you. So for the first sentence, roses are red is A, violets are blue is B, and sugar is sweet is C, and so are you is B. A Shakespearean sonnet employs the following rhyme scheme across its 14 lines, which again are broken up into 3 quatrains plus a 2-line chord, like EB, EB, CD, CD, EF, EF, and GG. And then from the sonnet, there are 4 types of sonnets. The first, Petrarchan sonnet. The Petrarchan sonnet is named after the Italian poet Francesco Petrarch, a lyrical poet of 14th century Italy. Petrarch did not invent the poetic form that bears his name. Rather, the commonly credited originator of the sonnet is Giacomo da Lentini, who composed poetry in the literary Sicilian dialect in the 13th century. They have 14 lines divided into 2 groups, and an octave and a septet. The octave follow a rhyme scheme of EBBA, EBBA. The septet follows one of 2 rhyme schemes, either CDE, CDE scheme, or more common, or CDC, CDC. Number 2, Shakespearean sonnet. A Shakespearean sonnet is variation of the Italian sonnet tradition. The form evolved in England during and around the time of Elizabethan era. These sonnets are sometimes referred to the Elizabethan sonnets or English sonnets. They have 14 lines divided into 4 subgroups, 3 quatrains, and a couplet. Each line is typically 10 syllables, phrased in iambic pentameter. A Shakespearean sonnet employs the rhyme scheme EBAB, CD, CD, EF, EF, GG. And then the number 3, Spenserian sonnet. A Spenserian sonnet is a variation of the second Shakespearean sonnet with a more challenging rhyme scheme, like EB EB, BC BC, CD CD, EE. And then the last, Miltonic sonnet. Miltonic sonnet are an evolution of the Shakespearean sonnet. They often examine an internal struggle or conflict rather than themes of the material words, and sometimes they will stretch beyond the traditional limits on rhyme or lake. Okay, the different Shakespearean sonnet and Petrarchan sonnets. The primary difference between a Shakespearean sonnet and Petrarchan sonnet is the way the poem's 14 lines are grouped. Rather than employ quatrains, the Petrarchan sonnet combines an octave, 8 lines, with a septet, 6 lines. This section accordingly followed the following rhyme scheme: EBBA, EBBA, CDE, CD. Sometimes the ending septet follows a CDC, CDC rhyme scheme. This is called the Sicilian sestet, named for an island region of Italy. Meanwhile, the Caribbean variant on the Petrarchan sonnet contains a different rhyme scheme for the opening octave: EBBA, CDDC. The first of the Petrarchan sonnet often frame a particular topic or argument of the sonnet, which is often presented as a question. The opening of octave offers a proposition that poses the problem at hand. The concluding sestet then provides a resolution. The ninth line of the Petrarchan sonnet found at the top of the sestet in the volta, which literally translates to the turn. Okay, the next Shakespearean sonnet, the different Shakespearean sonnet between Spenserian sonnet. The English poet Edmund Spenser lived during the age of the Shakespearean. In fact, he died earlier than the bard, and provided his own variation on the popular sonnet form of the day. Shakespeare and most of his contemporaries organized their 14-line sonnet sequence with the following rhyme scheme: EBAB, CDCD, EFEF, GG. Spenser's rhyme scheme is a bit more challenging: EBAB, BCBC, CDCD, EE. This means that rhyming words introduced in one quatrain must inform rhymes in subsequent quatrains. To see how Spenser put this into practice, consider the opening of his sonnet Amorati, written in 1595. Happy ye life, when as those lily hands, which hold my life in their death doing might, shall handle you and hold in love soft bands, like captive trembling at the victor's sides. This EBAB, and happy lands on which with starry light, those lamping eyes will deigns sometimes to look, and read the sorrow of my dying sprite, written with tears in heart's close bleeding book. BC. Okay, the next, the different Shakespearean sonnet and between Miltonic sonnet. Shakespeare's sonnet style traced fairly clearly to the original sonnets of Giacomo da Lentini. Shakespearean rhyme scheme differed from its Italian precedents, as it indicated above. but the bard of Avon most distinguishes his style via his poems, content and themes. Prior to Elizabethan age, the vast majority of sonnet concerned religion and worship. Shakespeare upended this tradition with poems that feature lust, homo- homoeroticism, misogyny, infidelity, and acrimony. This topic have endured in poetry ever since. Even if the rigid sonnet structure eventually fell out of fashion, John Milton, who lived for the final 8 years of Shakespeare's lifetime, continued to push the sonnet from Miltonic sonnet, often examined an internal struggle of, or conflict rather than themes of the material works. Sometimes they would stray beyond traditional limits on rims or of length. Sorry. But Milton also showed fondness for the Petrarchan form, including in his most famous sonnet, "When I consider how my life is spent." The example of sonnets. Some of the most iconic example of sonnet in the English language are familiar to most, perhaps not in full, but a line or two at very least. Shakespeare's Sonnet 18 may contain the most famous opening line in all of poetry.
Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Oh, thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometime declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest, nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee.
Okay, the next is how to write a sonnet in 4 steps. You may not be a Shakespeare, Milton, or Manda Coleman, but you too can write a sonnet. Here are some tips to get you started. Okay, the first, write about something you know. So, not a practitioner of the sonnet, Colombian writer Gabriel Garcia Marquez once told the Paris Review, write about something that has happened to you. The biggest prize for my work comes from the imagination, while the truth is that there is not a single line in all my work that does not have a basis in reality. Before obsessing over the right syllable count, rhyme scheme, and the required numbers of lines, first draw inspiration from your life. And then the second, pose a question. After reflecting on your life experience, what are you left wondering? Or what have you observed recently that has piqued a burning question? Perhaps this can be the opening octave of a Petrarchan sonnet. Third, come to a resolution. Continuing in the spirit of the Petrarchan sonnet, is the latter says that in your sonnet to offer some type of resolutions. Remember that a resolution doesn't have to mean a solution. Some of life's most worthwhile queries may not extend any further than an observation. And then the last, watch your form. Writing a traditional sonnet requires 14 lines of iambic pentameter. Your sonnet can be arranged as a whole or broken up into three quatrains followed by a two-line coda or an octave followed by a sesta. Be mindful of the form, but in the spirit of John Milton or Edmund Spenser, don't refrain from taking liberties. Okay, that's all about my presentation. I will close this presentation with Pramasanti. Om Santi Santi Santi.
So, I want to continue the presentation. My name is Yoni Serlina, and I bring a topic about stanza. So, definition of stanza. In poetry, a stanza is used to describe the main building block of form. It is a unit of form composed of lines that relates to a familiar touch of or topic, like a paragraph in prose or a verse in a song. Every stanza in a poem has its own concept and serves a unique purpose. A stanza may be arranged according to rhythmic patterns and matter, the syllabic beats of a line. It can also be free flowing verse that has no formal structure. A stanza is a series of line groups together in order to define a poem. The structure of a stanza is often a repeat throughout the poem. Stanza are separate from other stanza by line breaks. Each stanza is a standalone unit that can either make up an entire poem or can build a bigger poem with other stanzas. The purpose of stanza in poetry. In Italian, the word stanza means room. Stanza functions in a form like rooms function in a house. Acclaimed poet and former U.S. poet laureate Billy Collins says, "You're taking the reader on a tour of the poem, room by room, like taking someone through your house and describe it." In this way, stanza can be particularly revealing. The structure of a poem, stanzas say a lot about the poem, just as the rooms in a house say a lot about the house. So a stanza can reveal the following about the poem. The first is the structure. A poem always has a structural framework in place. Stanza as a part of poem architecture. Pattern. Informal verse poetry, in which the poem follows rhythm, scream, and meter. The first stanza set the pattern for the overall poem. The rhythm and rhythm will repeat in the second stanza, and so on. Organization. Often the lines of stanza explore a thought. As a poem moves on to the next thought, they might progress to new stanza. So set a mood. A break in between. A stanza may signal a shift in a mood or emotional tone. And the next one is shape. The shape around and between stanzas and the pattern they create on the page defines the shape of a poem. Type of stanza. Stanza have many types, so I'll explain briefly. I'll give a briefly explanation. So the first one, stanza like poem comes in all shape and size. There are many different types, and they are often classified by meters, rhythm, schemes, and how many groups of line they have. Here are some different type of stanza. The first one is a monostage. A monostage is a one-line stanza. Monostage can also an entire of a poem. The number two is couplet, a stanza with two lines that rhythm. Number three is tercet, a stanza with three lines that either all rhythm and the first and the third line rhythm, which is called ABA rhythmic pattern. A poem made up of tercet and concludes with a couplet is called a terza rima. And the next one is a quatrain, a stanza with four lines with second and fourth lining rhythmic. And then quintain, a stanza with five lines. And then septet, stanza with 6 lines, and then septet is a stanza with 7 lines. This is sometimes called a rhythm royal. And then octave is a stanza with 8 lines written in iambic pentameter or 10 syllable beats per line. The more line stanza has the more varieties of rhythm and meter pattern. And then isometric stanza. Isometric stanza have the same syllabic beats or the same meter in every line. And then heterometric stanza is a stanza in which every line is a different length. And then Spenserian stanza, named after Edward Spencer's unique stanza structure in his poem, The Peri Queenie. A Spenserian stanza has 9 lines, 8 in iambic pentameter, 10 syllable in a line with emphasis on the second beat of syllable, and a final line in iambic hexameter, a 12 syllabic beat line. And then ballad stanza. This is the last one. It's often used in folk songs. A ballad stanza is rhythmic quatrain with 4 emphasis beats or 8 syllables in the first and third lines, 3 emphasis beats, 6 syllable in the second and fourth lines. That's all about stanza. If you have any question, you can ask in the column in the Google Classroom. So we can do the discussion there. So that's all the explanation about stanza. Thank you.